everybody, welcome to the 10th episode of Hobby Hangout. Now if you're not familiar with this series, it's been a couple of months since I did one, but this is a new series I've started this year, talking about like painting and terrain and building a table and all that kind of fun stuff. I will have a playlist link at the bottom of this video if you want to check out that stuff if this kind of thing interests you. But today I'm going to talk about Necromunda terrain. Now Games Workshop just recently, last week or two I think, have just released their new edition of Necromunda. This box set you get, it's got everything you need to play the game in sort of a 2D-ish type of format, but there is rules for Gang War, which is kind of a little book supplement to play it in the more traditional format of a big table with lots of sprawling walkways and terrain and everything. So today I'm going to focus on a lot of different stuff. I've talked about some of this stuff already in other videos. I'll mention it briefly here again, and then I'm also going to talk a little bit more in depth about something called Promethium Forge, which is a new kind of MDF modular reconfigurable type of terrain. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that, but I'm going to talk about everything because I'm one that kind of scrapes and scraps to get what terrain they can together and put it down on the table and just to get something kind of cool looking, but with lots of line of sight blocking, no matter what war game or tabletop game I'm playing. So let's jump in and take a look at all this stuff. And I'll give you kind of rundown of where you can get it and what I kind of use it for and all that stuff. But again, more specifically on Promethium Forge. Okay, so you can see this giant table I set up, and frankly, this is way too big and probably too much terrain for Necromunda, but you know, I don't think it's completely out of the realm. Typically you play on a 4x4 table. And I've got all kinds of mixtures of terrain and stuff like that here. So first thing you're going to see are these cool ruins here, and these are from GameMat.eu. I've got one here. You can get a kit of these for about a little over $100, but shipping will kind of kill you if you live over here in the United States. You can see a couple of more pieces there and there. These are great for fantasy as well as 40K stuff, because if you can zoom in over there a little bit, you can see it's got kind of a Gothic type of architecture. You can see a couple of more pieces there. So it works fine for 40K and stuff. And it's great line of sight blocking. The little doorways there, you can punch them out. It's got little doors you can stick in there. So that's a pretty cool piece of terrain to get. Just in general, just to have some really cool ruins in there. These thick resin pieces there you can see down there. These are really, you can chuck these across a room and probably do some damage if you did, but they're very sturdy and they come pre-painted like that, which is always a bonus. And the next kind of couple of pieces of terrain here are these plastic kits here, and I'll just take these apart a little bit. You can see I kind of painted them and put some sort of dirt and rust and things like that on these. These are from the Shadow War Armageddon box set, but you can buy these individually in multiple different kits these days, and these are plastic. You assemble them, they're very quick and easy to assemble, and these are again very reconfigurable. You can kind of just drop stuff and put it all over the place. So I think a lot of folks will probably pick up this stuff here. They kind of suggest that you use the Sector Mechanicus style terrain, and that's what this is right here. If we go over here, you can see a lot of the walkways and little railings and things like that here, these little ladders. Now on the bottom of these, there's these little holes, and they have these little pegs and stuff that you can plug in. So this walkway here is actually 4 pieces, these 4 kind of corner angle pieces. And then you can kind of see underneath here these little stands, and these have little pegs that they'll plug in, and they come in and out really easy, but once they're in there, they're sturdy and stable. I'll shake the table a little bit. You can see it shaking, but it's gonna be fine there. And so those are really cool. And you can even have little things like this little skull there. I've got a sort of skull with blood on it hanging from there. And there's all kinds of little things you can hang, little wires and things like that, just to kind of add in maybe a little bit more line of sight blocking and just some overall flavor and kind of texture to your environment. Now back here you can kind of see some more of that Shadow War Sector Mechanicus stuff there. I've also got this stuff here, it's called Battle Zones, and this comes from lots of Dead Zone box sets from Mantic, and they also have their own kits. Now these are a little bit interesting. So like this is actually 2 pieces here that I set up. I've got some other ones there, and then you can see that kind of long thing down there. That little roof there is actually removable. I just made kind of a plank. This stuff's a little bit interesting. So I've worked with this stuff a little bit over the last couple of years now, and you can see in the bottom here you have these little clips like so, and theoretically you can take these in and out and kind of, you know, basically have each of these different wall sections, snap them in and out, and make it really reconfigurable. That sounds good in theory, and the more I've worked with it, the more I've broken those clips. It's weird because some of the clips come in and out very easy and they work fine, and you can see sometimes they have these little corner clips like that. Those can be kind of tricky, but sometimes they don't go in so nice. So what I've done is taken to just making a couple of different objects, like this is a solid object here. And for example, I also built like this sort of corner ruins here. Now this is all one thing. It's all been glued and kind of cemented in there. You got this little grating there, stuff hanging off, but that's one piece. So theoretically you'd have multiples and you can kind of snap them in, but again, it doesn't really quite work. Now that's a bummer. And now compared to kind of the Shadow War terrain there, it's not as reconfigurable because the Shadow War stuff does come apart and go together a lot easier. But this is significantly cheaper, I would say, than the Shadow War stuff. So you kind of get what you pay for, I think. But this is good stuff as well. And again, this stuff works in Dead Zone. All this stuff really works in Dead Zone, but you can see this is kind of square-ish. That's because Dead Zone's played on a grid, but there's no reason you can't throw all this stuff on a grid and then you know, you just use the grid for the movement, and this stuff will kind of overlay that. There's no reason you can't do that at all. Now the other cool thing about the Dead Zone stuff is they come with a fair bit of this kind of rubble and stuff. So you get a little pile of rubble like that. I've got these little barrels here with kind of this Nurgle's Rot stuff coming out of there if it'll focus. Let's see what else is there. This little thing here like that. A little kind of machine thing. So there's a lot of that kind of strewn around here, barrels and different boxes and things that'll all be out here in the terrain. You can make those like objective markers and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend picking up a couple 1, 2 sets or 3 sets of this Battle Zone stuff. You'll get a lot of bang for your buck out of that. And they have a lot of different styles. Some stuff is more like ruins here. You can see that's blasted out. And then you've got more sort of, you know, not ruin stuff like that. Now before I talk about the Promethium Forge stuff, which is all of this MDF, which I'm sort of halfway done painting, I just want to make quick mention of these little cool things here. These are from the HeroScape boxes, and I think you can find some of these in some of those new Magic the Gathering Planeswalker boxes. You can get some of these, and I just kind of did a quick sort of real quick priming with these, and these are just good little ruin ends to throw down because I have some old HeroScape stuff from playing with my sons. Now let's take a look at this Promethium Forge stuff. This is very, very configurable. So if you can forgive me kind of being a little bit messy here, I'm going to take some of this apart. So here I may knock stuff down. Yep, that's okay. So you can see this snaps off like that. We've got the ladders here. These railings come off. All that kind of stuff like that. So this is a piece here, and then like here we've got this sort of platform, and I'll talk a little bit more about the stuff in detail, but you can sort of slide this stuff out. See, it slides right in there like that, and so you have these little bulkheads. All of these will come off. Take those off like that, and there's another little ladder thing in there. We can pull this off, and then we'll take this off like this. You want to be a little bit careful, like I'll talk about that in a minute. We'll do that there, that there. So we've taken that apart. So all this stuff really comes apart like that. And you can actually box these away. So if I take a look at this guy here, you probably can't see the big building, but there's this kind of sort of flat building space here with a little doorway and stuff like that. Well, this acts as a box. So all of these bulkheads here, they fit very, very nicely into this box. So all the bulkheads that you get in this set, you can fit in here. And then let's see if you can kind of see it. You see, let me zoom in there. Like that. You can see that kind of slit there, that window. That's a larger box, and the rest of these pieces, like these big flat pieces and so on, will all fit in there. So you have 2 sort of boxes that you can just kind of transport these in. That's very cool. And of course the boxes act as little terrain pieces as well. That's pretty neat. So the thing about this Promethium Forge stuff is it comes in like a sprue, but more of a sprue that you would think of when you see a board game. So you'll punch out the various pieces. So we'll move our little gene stealer guy up there, and then we'll take this off like so. And we'll take a look at the stairs here. So the stairs, you can see it's got this side piece here, this side piece there, and then all of the little steps. Now these you just kind of punch out of a wood sprue, and then you glue them together, and then there you go. So each of these different pieces you'll have to do some assembly with. So like this bulkhead here, you've got this main piece here, that's one piece, and then these two here. This one you don't even have to glue, and I think you don't want to glue because it gives it some give when you slide it in and out, and you've got that piece there. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, but once you've got that there, then that's all you need to do. So there's probably a few hours of putting stuff together and stuff like that. Now the first thing that you want to do, I should mention, is this is literally all the instructions. It's just 2 pages of instructions, and it tells you, for example, like on the bulkhead, you've got that there, and you can see again those 4 pieces that I mentioned there, and then like the stairs back here shows you that. And there's 2 different kinds of steps. There's these here, and then there's those 2 there, and then it shows you, like for example, on the railings like this, you'd punch out the little railing and then the 2 little clips. You can see that, and then you glue them, and these just slide on perfectly like so. So again, that's just 2 pages of instructions. And then the other thing it tells you, and I did exactly as they said, and I went to Home Depot. So if you're watching this outside the United States, you want to find whatever the equivalent is if you don't have this in your country. This is Rust-Oleum Filler Primer. It's kind of like a 2-in-1. And this sprays on gray, and you can see that sort of a light gray that I've got everything on. Because you'll want to do that, this particular primer. Other primers that you use, for example, to paint your plastic miniatures are not going to work, and you don't want to. I expect you don't want to spray these fellas here with this Rust-Oleum either. So you just want to do a nice gloss of this, kind of 2 thin coats. I don't know if anybody else will get that joke, but yeah, you want to do 2 thin coats of that, and you can still see here some of the detail, well, all of the detail. Whoops. On all the pieces. So you've got kind of a hatch here like that, or you've got, in case of the building here, like the little doorway and all that kind of cool stuff. The other nice thing about that is, let me see if I can take this out without spilling too much. Yep. So we've got the kind of the 2 walkways here, and you can see the little hitches where it slides in. We'll do this is, so I went and painted all these. You have to get really close, but you can see there's kind of like lines, and so it's kind of a paint by numbers. So you can paint this in a lot of different ways. You can get pretty detailed with it. I kind of just laid down some paint here on these different areas that I'm going to clean up a little bit later, but it gives you sort of guides to paint with. There's not a lot of actual texture, or there's almost no texture on these pieces. It's all very flat, but you can kind of get and add 3 dimensions to these pieces, through the use of paint. So I think what I'm going to do here, just for giggles, I've been sort of debating it, because I do like this kind of, it's sort of a non-dirty industrial look, but I think I'm going to dirty this stuff up a little bit, weather it a little bit more. I kind of did a little bit of an experiment here. This is typhus corrosion there with some washes. So I think I'm kind of liking that look, and it kind of matches, the color scheme of the Sector Mechanicus and the Battlezone stuff a little bit better there. And there's a little bit of like dirt on the stairways and stuff like that. So I'm going to do a little bit of that, a little bit more kind of airbrushing on kind of the edges and sort of where the recesses would be, kind of be super quick. It's a lot of stuff to paint. Now what I purchased here is what's called kind of their mini set. And I got this on sale on Black Friday. It was basically these 2 boxes of terrain and all the stuff that you see there. It was $70 shipped. Now the price is a little bit more now if you go on their website, but it's not too much more. But it's certainly worth it. And it's, it's wood, so it's pretty sturdy. And it's not fragile or anything. Now the one thing that the guy does tell you in the instructions, especially when you're sliding the bulkheads in and out of this, is you do want to apply some candle wax there. Now I'm a dummy and like to live dangerously and didn't do that. Now I haven't had any problems, but the first couple of times you see that went in pretty easy. The first couple of times you slide stuff in, it's going to be very tight and firm. Now it's going to loosen up over time. So what I did is I assembled all these and glued them, and it was plain wood. And then I kind of went into each slot and used each bulkhead and very carefully did it. I should have done it with candle wax. I would definitely recommend doing that. I could see how it would be easier. And then after I kind of laid down the paint here, then I kind of did it a little bit more like that. Now the other thing you want to be careful of when you're spraying here with this Rust-Oleum is you definitely want to tape off these areas like so. So you don't get any paint kind of in those grooves, or you don't want to get any paint in these grooves here, because that's going to, again, that's going to change how these fit together, and you don't want to do that. So let me actually break all of this Promethium Forge stuff down, kind of give you the coup de grace in terms of the awesome way that you can actually store this. Okay, so here you can see everything all boxed up in the two buildings. You got all the bulkheads and stuff in here, and all the big pieces and the little railings and stuff in there. You got all the ladders in here. Just wanted to show you a couple other little things there. You can see, like, just with a little bit of a wash on some of these, it does kind of bring out a nice sort of level of detail and shadow and stuff. That looks okay there. And then just to show you, I didn't give you a good close-up of all like the inner bulkheads, but they have like little doorways and passageways that you can go through. And the last thing I wanted to mention, these have been really useful to making the train interesting. These aren't related to anything else. I just found these on Etsy, and you can just get like a bunch of ladders, and they get paid like maybe 15 bucks. I got a lot more ladders than this. So it's just a bunch of these 3D printed ladders that I just sprayed with black and white. And this just makes, you know, other passageways that are just meaningless, but they just gives you all the kinds of nooks and crannies and corners and things to get into. So this might be something else that you want to add to your train setup. Anyway, that's kind of the rundown of that. Thanks for watching. Bye.